The story begins with a massive and terrifying gate known as the gates, which appear all over Earth. Monsters begin emerging from these gates, and humans were not prepared for this catastrophe. These creatures were immune to all of humanity's weapons and armaments. Many called them underworld creatures due to their bizarre appearances, and they began wreaking havoc across the planet. A new hope arises when gates with different colors become humanity's beacon. They are called test gates, and those who can pass through these gates are considered the chosen ones, also known as players. These people emerged at the same time as the mysterious gates and one by one began defeating the monsters. Humanity started adapting to how the gates functioned. Each of them has a timer, and when the time reaches 0, it means that the underworld creatures will start coming out again. A group of players called Skyclock assures everyone that they will do everything to prevent this from happening. They have become true heroes for the people. However, not all players can overcome these gates. Some still fail to exterminate the monsters, and the consequence of this is that all the monsters inside that gate gain the ability to come out of it. In the midst of all the chaos, a man hides on top of a building and observes the situation. This man, with a colorful aura around him, was Eric Subaru, one of the players. He commanded the monsters to stop, and the people who were fleeing from the dragon immediately noticed him. They recognized him as RMC and could see the relief in his face. Eyes widened as they saw him appear in front of them. Among all the players in the world, Eric Subaru was considered the only one who had managed to pass through a rainbow door. This granted him unimaginable power that set him apart from the rest. In the blink of an eye, he defeated the dragon with a single strike. He was the man at the top of the world, and people hailed him as their savior. A child even told his mother that Subaru was very cool and wanted to be like him when he grew up. Subaru heard this and gave a precious smile before bidding farewell to the crowd. This was the main function of the players, to protect humanity. As he ascended to the top of the building, someone greeted Subaru. It was the members of the Skyclock, the players considered the strongest. An elf in a black cloak praised RNC and also teased him for being so popular. Subaru could hardly believe that he was now being recognized by everyone. Not long ago, he had been treated like an insect. Subaru remembered his difficult past. This powerful hero used to be a helpless man, but things had changed. Now he was the leader of humanity in the task of clearing the gates and preventing their extinction. It all began when he entered that rainbow door. A small retrospective of when it all began. That door appeared right in front of Subaru. His face was all battered, and he tried his best to reach it. The bullies who had made his life miserable tried to stop him from entering that door. They even wanted to kill him and see him suffer. But from Subaru's perspective, this was the second test door that had appeared before him, and he couldn't let it slip away again. His legs were no longer working, so he had to crawl toward the door. He was determined not to give up. To avoid making the same mistake again, Subaru succeeded in opening the door and immediately entered, as his life hung by a thread. Here was the face of someone tired of being treated like an insect. He was determined to regain everything he had lost. A few years ago, Subaru supposedly had a rare door. Before Subaru could obtain the rainbow door, he used to watch the news with his brother. At that time, the person being interviewed was a golden player named Rinji, known as RMC. Subaru was only 15 years old at that moment and became a fan of this golden player. Meanwhile, his brother named Tiga was only 13 years old and had an unpleasant attitude towards Subaru. It turned out that the two of them were not really blood relatives, they were half-siblings, and Tiga disliked this idea. Returning to the news, the reporter was telling everyone about the gate that had opened and released creatures from the underworld, causing 16 deaths. They also informed everyone again that the gates have timers, and if they reach 0, monsters will come out of them. Rinji then explained that the only way to prevent this from happening was for players to clear the gates. The incident from yesterday should not have happened if someone had simply reported it to the players. Although he was immediately interrupted by Rinji, who fought alone against all the monsters, the reporter tried to praise this hero, but Renji was still unsatisfied with the outcome because some lives were sacrificed. Renji then addressed everyone watching the news, saying that if a gate was disco sacrificing their lives. Tiga chuckled when he heard that statement. He didn't believe in it. However, when he turned his head to Subaru, he saw something. His half-brother's face was fixated on something shiny. A golden door appeared right in front of them. Subaru thought this was the door of trials Renji had mentioned, and that if he could pass the test, he could become the hero the world needed. Subaru reached out for the door but was interrupted by Tiga. His brother pushed him away, catching Subaru off guard. He couldn't believe his brother had done something like this. With a conflicted expression, Tiga apologized to Subaru as he was about to claim the door for himself. RMC tried to stop him, but it was too late, and Tiga took the golden door. 3 years after the incident, we can see a young man trapped in a web resembling a spider's. This was RMC, now 18 years old, being bullied by these guys. He was entangled in this web, and stones were being thrown at him. Subaru couldn't do anything about it, but when one of those guys was about to throw another stone at him, he heard a familiar voice. It was Tiga, and that's when he saw what had become of him. Subaru then remembered what happened 3 years ago. Tiga had come out of the golden door he had stolen from RMC. This meant he had survived and passed the test, making Tiga the youngest golden player in Japan. Since that day, he resented his older brother. He couldn't accept that he was related to someone who was being bullied by lower-level players. Tiga then he borrowed the stone from that blue-haired bully. He held the stone, and his hand began to glow. A bright beam of light could be seen in the area, and the pressure was enough to frighten everyone. This guy had just used his ability called Golden Arm, which was known to rival Renji's Golden Sword. Now, RMC began to cry. He knew this move was aimed at him. Tiga positioned himself and gathered enough power, then, after a few seconds, he hurled the stone toward RMC. The stone flew by, nearly hitting him. The force of a small stone was enough to disperse all the clouds in the sky that day, and because of that, Subaru ended up wetting his pants. Tiga smiled and walked away, telling the bullies that they could do whatever they wanted, even kill his brother, and he wouldn't care one bit. With that, those guys continued with their games. The other students who witnessed this incident didn't even try to stop them. Subaru was left there, hurt and abandoned. People thought this guy was such a fool. Later that night, the news reported that the gates in the cities of Sujin, Nami, Shinagawa, and Koto had been destroyed. This was thanks to Japan's youngest golden player, Tiga. This guy had truly become a celebrity and a hero in the eyes of the people. Currently, he was celebrating with his parents. His mother was so proud of him, happy that her son could support the family, even though Tiga was still a student. She then mocked Subaru, saying he was the opposite of Tiga. His father didn't comment on this remark. He thought Subaru was truly a failure. Next to their massive mansion, there was a small room where RMC spent his days studying. Whenever Tiga needed, "Sure, here's the passage in English," without spelling errors. Subaru couldn't do anything, he simply called Subaru from outside. Subaru couldn't even challenge what his younger brother ordered due to the difference in strength between them. This time, RMC was asked to buy more drinks for Tiga. He couldn't bear the fact that he would probably be stuck in this routine forever. Subaru was losing his sanity with this thought in his head. He felt like he was treated like an insect. Every summer, he was left in that small room, suffering from heatstroke, and during the winter, that room was as cold as a freezer. His parents treated him like an insect as well. Subaru was thinking about the time when he would be old and fragile. He imagined that Tiga would still ask him to do some tasks. The thought of that scene scared him a lot. Subaru was already tired of this situation. He didn't want any of this to continue happening. He remembered the day the golden door appeared in front of him. His life would have been different if he had had that opportunity. And as he lamented the decisions he had made in his life, those bullies appeared again. They simply went to a gate and were tired of cleaning it, and now they found Subaru and wanted to use him as stress relief. This guy didn't even want to go to the hospital first to treat the injuries he had suffered. All he wanted was to get rid of Subaru. Saitari wasn't afraid to bully Subaru because Tiga had given permission for it. With that, RMC started running, but these guys were athletes, which meant they were much faster than Subaru. Saitari landed a precise blow on RMC. Subaru couldn't believe that these guys were doing this to him again. He knew that now they were already planning to kill him. Subaru tried to scream for help. He was trying to cling to life, but it wasn't enough. RMC was kicked towards Sally, and these guys started beating on him again. Subaru was already thinking he was about to die. Saitari then summoned his ability called Red Rose. He was about to hit him with this fireball, but something unusual happened. His other friend noticed that something was appearing in front of him, and a few seconds later, a test door materialized. It was placed right in the middle of this guy and cut him in half. The test door stopped them all. They were paralyzed, unable to move. These bullies were now thinking about how a test door appeared out of nowhere. This was a copper door, the lowest level among test doors, but then it changed into a silver door. A few seconds later, it turned into a golden door. Subaru and the bullies couldn't believe what was happening. They then felt another intense pressure. The golden door changed color again and became a rainbow door. RMC just stared at this door in front of him. The other two thought that maybe this door would grant them much stronger powers than the golden doors. They wanted to be the ones to enter it. The doorknob was on the other side, but this time, someone was already holding the doorknob. Subaru was determined not to let this opportunity slip away again. These two were now screaming as they witnessed the scene. They wouldn't allow Subaru to take that door. Saitari launched his fireball again, and RMC was caught in the explosion. His feet were already separated from H strength, status, honor, and money. A notification appeared above his head and welcomed him into the room. Someone approached RMC. This creature had pale purple skin, wearing tattered clothes. Right in front of him was a monster that grinned as the system informed Subaru that the rainbow test was about to begin. The creature inside the room touched Subaru's head and then entered his mind. A massive amount of electricity surged from Subaru's body. It turns out this creature had only healed his body. The issue with Subaru's vision was also resolved, his heart and lungs were revived, and after a while, Subaru woke up and gasped for air. He then stared at the face of this creature right in front of him. Subaru recoiled, frightened by what he saw. He then remembered what had happened before he arrived there. RMC realized that the creature that healed him was the guardian of this door. He recalled Rinji's interview at that time when the hero revealed that the scene at each test door was different. In his case, he had been transported to a medieval castle. Each door also has a ruler, and to become a player, you need to recognize the person first. And now Subaru thought that the one he had to prove his worth to was this scary creature. He was also panicking because he had no idea what the test would entail. In Rinji's case, the Golden Knight recognized him when they fought with their swords, explaining the power he received. His main skill was the Golden Sword. Usually, the test consisted of hitting the ruler of the door. Subaru was still busy thinking about how he could hit this monster, and it bored him. After a while, this creature started addressing Subaru, asking if his brain was broken because all he did was look at her. Subaru then confirmed that he was fine. This further confused the ruler. All Subaru needed to do was hit him, and he would receive his power, but then Subaru explained and asked the identity of the monster. He explained that he was still quite confused because the test doors only had 3 colors: copper, silver, and gold. This infuriated the creature because this information wasn't really important. Then, she snapped her fingers toward Subaru, and a powerful bright red force suddenly appeared, almost hitting RMC. He thought it would now be impossible to pass the exam because the ruler was too powerful. The ruler then shouted at Subaru to hurry up because he still wanted to sleep. RMC wanted to obey the request, but his legs were still trembling. This confused the creature again because she never imagined that the human chosen to enter her domain would be so weak. With no other option, the ruler did something. A red sword appeared in front of Subaru, which shocked him. But then, looking up, he saw something even more surprising. Different types of weapons began to rain down. All of these weapons surrounded him. The ruler told him that if Subaru was too afraid to hit him, he could use one of those weapons to end it. If that didn't help him, the ruler suggested that Subaru just go. He headed home and found another test door. RMC was still processing everything that was happening. He needed to find a way to prove his worth to this ruler or turn his back and find another way to change his fate. So, he gathered his strength and forced his legs to rise. The ruler found this turn of events interesting. Subaru went in the opposite direction and chose to exit through that door. I was a bit irritated by his determination. Now he wanted the power to change his life but was too afraid to seize it. This also irritated the ruler, who then called Subaru an insect and prevented him from opening the door. This statement reminded him of the times he had also been called an insect by bullies. He felt the gaze of the people who treated him like garbage. The ruler then provoked him further, telling Subaru that he could spend his life miserably, crawling and begging for mercy from others. This made him cry. Subaru opened his eyes and saw the old version of himself. This is how he will end up if he chooses to be afraid forever. And after a few seconds, he began to bang on the rainbow door, asking everyone why he was treated that way. This continued for a few more minutes. Subaru was furious with these beings. They all think they are very important. This scene made the ruler smile. Subaru continued to complain about how people with power do as they please. These statements made the ruler laugh. Then he shouted back to RMC that this scenario was fine because people with power can control the world. This taunt drove Subaru mad. He remembered the times he was hurt because this type of person didn't treat him as a human being. Sure, here's a rewritten version in English with corrected spelling and grammar. Subaru. The ruler began to laugh louder because the insect was now irritated. After this, Subaru started running toward the ruler. He clenched his fist and was about to attack. And with that, Subaru delivered a clean blow, but nothing happened. The ruler smiled because he realized Subaru could do anything if he put his heart into it. He began patting RMC's shoulders, as he was genuinely pleased with him. The monster praised Subaru because he could feel the intense hatred coming from his fist. With that, he congratulated Subaru for passing the test. The ruler then suddenly bit Subaru. A red aura appeared around them and started flowing into RMC. Subaru explained, in pain, that this wasn't what he expected. This guy thought he was being killed by the ruler and bit him back. He would take the power for himself. This piqued the ruler's interest in Subaru even more, and he decided to offer him an extra service. The red aura shifted to a rainbow aura. The amount of energy Subaru received left him unconscious. But that meant he officially passed the test. The ruler told Subaru they should meet again and revealed his identity to him. His name was Vanquish, the ruler of the Rainbow Gate. This monster continued laughing as his body began to disappear. A notification appeared saying that Subaru had become a player. He was currently at level 1, and his title was Vampire or Progenitor. His ability was called Blood Shaping, and he also received additional rainbow abilities, which were Bloody Usurper, those who despise glory, and those who walk under the sun. Now that the test had ended, the place would start to disappear. Subaru had only 30 seconds before he got stuck there. The place began to crumble, but his body didn't move. After a few more seconds, RMC fell into the void. He continued to fall freely. The Rainbow Gate also shattered. The real-world bullies saw what happened and thought Subaru had failed the test, which made them furious. They turned away because of this missed opportunity, but then a rainbow crack appeared, and Subaru emerged from it. This surprised the two bullies because they never thought this underdog could become a player. The weak guy they used to bully now had a different aura around him. Eric Subaru appeared as a different person. These two started shouting at Subaru, and that's when our MC regained his true identity. He was sent back to reality and actually became a player, receiving power from Vanquish. Saotari didn't waste any more time and tried to attack Subaru, but he easily dodged. This guy accused our MC of stealing his Rainbow Gate, but in Subaru's mind, it clearly belonged to him. The bully charged at him again, and then it happened. Subaru's eyes gleamed once again. Now, Subaru could see the trajectory of Sawatari's attack. It seemed like everything was in slow motion. Sawatari's movements were already swift as a copper-ranked player, and his attacks should have been faster than those of ordinary people, but in RMC's perspective, Sawatari's movement was exceptional. Sawatari's sword skills were evident as he managed to dodge all of Subaru's attacks. Subaru grew tired of this and attempted to immobilize Sawatari's hands. That's when Sawatari noticed that Subaru was still. These statements infuriated Subaru. He couldn't believe that Sawatari was placing all the responsibility on him. With that, RMC closed his eyes and began to feel the hatred he had for the whole world. Subaru exclaimed that Sawatari should stop saying these selfish things. A large amount of rainbow aura began to emanate, but Sawatari wasn't even intimidated. He advanced again, and our MC faced him with his counterattack. Subaru's punch was enough to break the sword. He broke through this guy's defense, and then it happened, his sweet revenge. It was truly a satisfying moment. I also felt the relief of punching this guy. Subaru's punch was so powerful that Sawatari leaped up, and his friend stood there looking at his floating body. After a few seconds, Sawatari's body fell to the ground. This was a new strength of the insect they used to intimidate. With just one punch, Subaru defeated this copper player. RNC began to approach them, and the blue-haired guy saw him. He immediately used his ability and wrapped his friend in wire. The bullies fled the scene. Subaru couldn't believe it, they had run away. This low-budget Spider-Man was now fleeing. He now wondered what kind of monster Subaru had obtained his powers from. Ariak Subaru won the fight. He fell to his knees and declared his victory. Although he was happy with it, he began to check the environment around him. He saw this star-shaped mark on the ground. There was also a hole in the wall and, finally, the remains of the sky. He was now thinking about what to do about these things. The next day, the police arrived at the scene. They saw the body that was split in half. The police were nervous because it looked like this was not done by a monster. Renji then arrived and confirmed their hypothesis. An old player was involved. He personally checked the serious incident. The police then showed him the guy's ID card, and he found out he was a copper player. He thought that this was not an easy task to be done, so the culprit should be at least a silver player. He also felt something unsettling about this incident, but this discomfort did not come from him, it was from the ruler who gave him powers. This golden knight was named Ludwig. Renji thought it wasn't really the time to worry about it. Players shouldn't fight each other, they should use their powers to destroy as many doors as possible. He then looked up, thinking about the doors. The one that worried him the most was the huge one in the sky, called the Celestial Clock. Meanwhile, Taga, his younger brother, was worried. He checked his older brother's room, and he wasn't there. Subaru hadn't returned since the previous night. Taga also checked his phone, and all the messages were unread. It was then that he saw some disturbing news. A copper player had been killed by another player, and it was headline news. He wondered who this guy could be, and, upon further checking, Taga saw the face of a copper player. Aware that this guy was among the players who bullied his brother, had the idea that maybe Subaru had obtained another trial gate. This idea left him furious, and as a result, Taga punched Subaru's room, leaving it in ruins. He couldn't bear the fact that his brother had another chance to become a player. In the city of Shinagawa, there was a building called the headquarters of the Japanese Players Federation. This place was meant for all awakened players, and this was the organization responsible for managing the gates. And now Subaru entered here, being welcomed by a cheerful lady. She congratulated Subaru on becoming an official player. RMC thanked her and confirmed his registration here in Japan. Unregistered players could not enter any gates, which put them at a significant disadvantage since players could only gain experience to level up within the gates. Due to yesterday's incident, which turned into a murder case, Subaru thought he should get stronger as quickly as possible. He knew that sooner or later, someone would discover his involvement in this incident, and he couldn't win against these players, especially if it was Tiga. He thought he should try to level up faster to prepare for that. He researched a few things upon becoming a player. First, if someone could clear a gate, that player would level up. Second, the difficulty of the gates was determined by the number of stars they had. Finally, the stars the gates awarded when completed could be exchanged for items and abilities useful for money. Subaru then took the star he obtained last night, which was from Salvatore and fell when they were fleeing the scene. In RMC's mind, he had no choice but to use it since he had no money with him. But then the woman's facial expression changed when she confirmed where the star came from. This immediately made her, Subaru panicked and came up with an excuse that he had cleaned a door after becoming a player yesterday. The woman revealed to him that cleaning a door was illegal and he could face a punishment of up to 5 years in prison or a fine of up to 1 million yen. Subaru was unaware of this penalty, and he had been careless. Now, he was contemplating what he should do. Meanwhile, at the police station, the officers were shocked to see this prominent gold player in their precinct. They immediately inquired about the reason for Tiga's presence. Without wasting any time, he told the officer that he had come to examine evidence regarding last night's murder case. As for RMC, he was astonished to see the exchange rate of the star he had obtained. But before that, the woman at the counter made sure he was aware of the rules for cleaning doors. She cheerfully informed Subaru that, as it was his first offense, she would let this transgression slide. He was very fortunate. He also couldn't believe that with just one star, he had obtained 1 million yen. That was equivalent to $7,000. Now, with this amount in his hands, he was more motivated to find more doors and become stronger immediately. But before that, he decided he should get a haircut and buy some new clothes. He was greeted by friendly people as soon as he entered the shops. After all the transactions, his 1 million yen was reduced to 875,200 yen. He felt like a new person now. It was the first time he had entered a cafe and could enjoy a caramel macchiato. Subaru began to feel excited as he sipped his drink. To him, his surroundings suddenly became brighter. It was very different from the life he was used to living. He felt that he was experiencing freedom for the first time. After finishing his coffee, he decided to start looking for doors to clean. He knew that he could now have a better life as a player. However, before he could further enjoy this idea, his world turned dark again. Tiga found RNC. Subaru felt the pressure that his younger brother was emitting. He knew that he needed to escape at this moment, but it was already too late. Tiga had already broken the coffee shop's glass shattered as he grabbed Subaru by the shirt, forcing him out of the building. He threw him with force towards the cars on the street. Subaru couldn't control his body and was about to collide with a mother and her baby. The mother panicked, and the baby began to cry. Subaru knew he couldn't let innocent people get hurt, so he used his ability called blood mold to create ropes with his power. These ropes latched onto the cars. Subaru's intention was to use these ropes to stop the momentum of his body. This move was enough to prevent him from crashing into the two. Subaru then exclaimed that they should flee. He knew the fight wasn't over yet, but RMC had already suffered significant damage. Tiga's aura was emanating, and he was closing in. This guy told Subaru that he couldn't believe he had become a player. RMC knew he was in trouble because he was about to fight a gold player who could clear the gates on his own, and on top Subaru might have revealed his location when he paid for the clothes and haircut he got some time ago, but that didn't matter anymore. Subaru thought he was about to die anyway because Taga had used his ultimate ability, RMC. So, Subaru closed his eyes and tried to communicate with Vanquish. He asked this monster if it had any advice on how to get out of this situation. Vanquish gave him a hint about his ability called Blood Mold. Subaru could manipulate blood and turn it into anything he wanted as long as he had some mana. But he had to be careful because this ability could quickly drain his mana. Subaru focused, knowing that his only priority now was to survive. These were his current stats. He was still at level 1. Meanwhile, Taga had these stats, which were almost 4 times better than Subaru's. This guy then started to attack. He used his ability called Golden Impact, and a massive explosion was seen in the area where Subaru was. Taga thought this attack was enough to defeat his half-brother, but Subaru then appeared above him and was using an ability similar to a whip. RNC imitated the ability of the blue-haired bully. He then planned to climb a building or something, but Taga was fast. He jumped towards Subaru and was about to strike him. Subaru used his ability again and aimed at another building, narrowly avoiding the devastating attack from Taga. RNC knew that if that attack hit him, he could die instantly. Meanwhile, Taga was still trying to guess what his brother's ability was. He thought it was just like shooting ropes from his hands, and with this simplistic conclusion from his small brain, he shouted that this was regrettable. Then he ran towards Subaru, thinking he needed just one blow, and this battle would be over. But as he approached, Subaru found himself surrounded by this red entity, until he abruptly stopped. Taga was now engulfed in this red smoke. He thought maybe this was another ability of Subaru. Before he could truly understand what was happening, RMC had already appeared behind him. Subaru then remembered Vanquish's advice about hatred. Memories of his younger brother's bullying resurfaced, and he delivered a precise blow. These two were still excited about what was happening, but after a few seconds, Subaru's hands began to break, his bones were shattering. He screamed in pain as he held his other hand. This attack was a punch similar to the one that defeated Saitari, but now it didn't even affect Taga. The younger brother had the chance to hit Subaru and struck RMC in the chest. Blood began to spurt, his health bar was also low. Taga smiled because he knew his brother had nowhere to run, but before he could reach Subaru, RNC vanished and created something from his blood. It turned out Subaru was already planning his next move. He turned his blood into mist and blocked his brother's view. Multiple sharp objects were then hurled at him. This was Subaru's ultimate attack, everything he could achieve with mastery of his ability. He thought it might inflict some damage, but that wasn't the case. His blood-shaping ability didn't even scratch Taga. At this moment, Subaru realized he had made a mistake. He was clearly outmatched by his younger brother in terms of speed, power, and defense. His abilities were on a completely different level. Subaru thought that even if he could pass through a rainbow door, he wouldn't be able to defeat Taga. Meanwhile, from Taga's perspective, he discovered that Subaru's ability was, he could transform his blood into anything. He knew he needed to defeat him now, because if his older brother could evolve, it would certainly be a problem. This guy was determined to crush his brother. His golden arm ability managed to hit Subaru at point-blank range. The impact of this ability was shown when the debris behind RMC was blown away. Subaru began to cough as he thought he really couldn't defeat Taga now, but that changed when he realized he could create something soft and sticky to counter his sheer strength. At this moment, Subaru had only 5 HP left, he was already on the brink of death. Taga was shocked to feel that his attack was absorbed, dispersing the impact as if by magic. This red ball also remained stuck to his arms. He tried to shake it off, but it wouldn't budge. Subaru created an unbreakable gum while Taga was still fuming over this attack. More of them appeared around him. Subaru knew this was a critical moment. His blood-shaping ability only lasted for 10 seconds before returning to normal blood. He thought he was ready to use all his mana points just to stop Tiga. These red balls began to pierce Tiga. He tried to move, but he couldn't, even using all his strength. He screamed in disbelief. This guy was so frustrated that he summoned his entire aura, but it didn't help. Tiga jumped to reach Subaru and warned his older brother about their fight. Subaru then revealed that he wasn't actually trying to defeat him. All he wanted was to survive, and now he was about to achieve that goal of escape. Subaru used more of his mind and created more red sticky gums. His MP was already at the limit, with only 9 MP remaining, but it was enough to keep this guy trapped. The blood-shaping ability kept Tiga in his place, unable to move. RNC then used his whip ability again. He knew he could only hold Tiga for 10 seconds, but he knew that was more than enough to escape. As soon as the 10 seconds passed, the blood-shaping ability disappeared, but before Tiga could attempt to search for Subaru, a red mist surrounded him. He knew at that moment that this red smoke curtain would allow Subaru to escape. This golden player then began to scream again. He had been deceived by the guy he treated as trash. He then made a declaration that he would still hunt Subaru to the end. As he finished saying these things, he felt a strong pressure around him. Someone called his name, and the other gold players appeared, asking what was happening. The voice that was enough to stop him in his attack came from Renji. The other guys were present too. Tiga tried to say that he didn't have time to explain because he needed to catch up to Subaru, but he was already restrained by golden chains that surrounded him. 3 more silhouettes appeared behind the smoke curtain, meaning the other 6 gold players had also come to the scene to stop Tiga. With this, Tiga found out he was about to be restrained, and this order came directly from Renji, who also wanted to know what had really happened there. Meanwhile, our guy successfully escaped the danger. Now he had only 5 HP and 2 MP left. He still couldn't believe he had managed to escape from Tiga. But Subaru was frustrated. He thought he hadn't even managed to land a single blow on his younger brother. All the clothes he had bought had been torn. Subaru remembered the feeling of having to buy clothes. He found it really fun, but to experience that freedom again, he needed something more. RNC knew he needed to get stronger. The next day, we found ourselves in front of a gate. A woman was arguing with some guys about the reservation of that gate. She claimed that only she had authority over it. These guys then mocked her, thinking she was too weak for that gate. They intended to take control. The woman then summoned her aura. She smiled and told these guys that they really didn't know who she was, and now they were about to find out. This woman was a copper player named Amamiya Siaka. After a few moments, Siaka was already on her knees, defeated by these guys. It turned out she was only a level 8 copper player, while her opponents were all level 10 or higher. A guy named Grax mocked her again and said she didn't stand a chance against him. Siaka felt at a disadvantage. One of the guys told her she should give up and let them take the gate. This guy told her that in this world, survival of the fittest still prevails. But this woman didn't give up. She already knew that statement, survival of the fittest. Siaka remembered the moment she was kicked out of her original team just for being weak, and that was the reason she couldn't hand over that gate to them. Grax had already grown tired of her tenacity and was about to ending this fight. Siaka, frustrated, knew she had no chance of winning, but then someone spoke up. It was Subaru, and he had heard about the declaration that the strongest would be the one who could conquer that gate. Everyone turned their attention to RMC as he asked if he could also participate in the competition for the gate. One of the guys approached him and asked for his identity. It was the first time they had seen his face in that area, but before this guy could start intimidating him, Subaru activated his ability. He created that red ball again and made the guy jump. The ball also rose and hit the guy's face, enough to make them feel Subaru's strength. This guy was now acknowledging the intimidating aura in his mind. He needed to get stronger as quickly as possible. All the other guys then began to approach him. Subaru took a fighting stance, looking like an innocent guy about to experience a fight. The bald guy was the first to reach him, but one punch was enough to put him to sleep. The other guys stopped in their tracks as they witnessed the scene. RMC thought he was about to face the players again, but these guys were much weaker. Sasaki was faster than them, and compared to Tiga, they were like flies. Subaru's punches were able to hit all of them. Now, they were wondering about the true identity of this new guy. They couldn't believe he was only at level 1. As he fell to the ground, Grax was already preparing his ability. He used his skill called Trill 6 and fired 6 bullets toward RMC. Grax smiled because he thought he had caught Subaru off guard, but our guy was already surrounded by red balls and managed to catch all the bullets. Grax tried to launch a shield, but it was already too late. He was also knocked out with a punch. Sayaka was still there and witnessed everything that happened. She now wondered how a level 1 player managed to defeat all these guys with a single punch each. She even thought that maybe this guy was a gold player. Meanwhile, RMC why he really needed to get stronger quickly and asked if he could go and clear that gate with Sayaka. When she confirmed that it was indeed his first time, she agreed to join him. Their expressions changed as she told Subaru that she also knew the feeling of wanting to get stronger. They both agreed to work together, but as for the reward, they would split it 70-30. Sayaka then introduced herself to Subaru and said her name. RMC immediately returned the gesture. He was about to say his name, but then he remembered something. He couldn't reveal his true name because he was accused of killing a copper player. Subaru thought of some names until the name Vanquish came to his mind. He used the name of the ruler of the Rainbow Gate, thinking that maybe this guy was a foreigner. After that, Sayaka exclaimed that they should go now. She was full of energy, but Subaru noticed something. There was already a stone heading towards Sayaka. RMC was about to use his ability to deflect the stone, but Sayaka had already punched it. Her fist was enough to shatter the stone. She then informed Subaru that their real opponents were already here. A group of goblins and kobolds were approaching. Sayaka smiled and told Subaru he should leave them to her. This woman was fast and managed to reach the goblins in a short period of time. Players were able to fight the monsters inside the gates because of their enhanced physical abilities and also had different skills to support them. Sayaka was about to show her ability. She punched the goblin with fists surrounded by that pink stone. The goblin then lost consciousness and knelt. Subaru was impressed with her ability. Sayaka continued to do this with the other monsters, and in an instant, all the monsters approaching them were down. Subaru thought this woman was very strong as she defeated them with just one blow. Sayaka then revealed the name of her ability, Instant Void. This ability stuns the opponent she hits, without exception. She explained that this ability was not compatible with ranged attacks. However, the monster she hit started to wake up again. Sayaka realized the weakness of her ability. She could only stun the monsters for 3 seconds, and after that, they could move again. Sayaka knew she was in trouble and started crying, asking for RMC's help. Subaru was paralyzed, not knowing what to do because she had told him to leave. Sayaka saw Subaru so far from her and thought she was about to die. RMC realized that her ability was similar to Blood Mold, with a duration of effect. However, Subaru couldn't use his blood-shaping ability to create blades as he might hit Sayaka. With no other choice, Subaru attempted to use a different skill. He shot a red thread at the goblin about to attack Sayaka, and the other monsters were caught in the attack as well. Sayaka wondered what kind of ability this was. His companion was on the other side, holding the threads connected to the monsters. Subaru managed to hold all the threads correctly, then turned his body and ran in the opposite direction. This pulled all the threads connected to the goblins and kobolds, sending their bodies flying away. Sayaka was shocked by what she saw. This guy had just defeated all the monsters in a single blow. Subaru was quite satisfied with the result. His body started to glow, and the system notified him that he had leveled up. Defeating those monsters had taken him to level 4. His blood-shaping ability had also improved, increasing the duration of the effect to 15 seconds. Subaru also noticed that all his wounds from previous battles had been healed. He felt a surge in his strength, and his health and mana points were fully restored. Sayaka then rushed toward RMC, still wondering how Subaru had defeated all those monsters. Our boy began to praise her for her skill, saying it was truly amazing. This left Sayaka confused because she was supposed to be the one saying that to Subaru. But then Subaru explained that her ability was powerful, and she could be invincible in one-on-one duels. She could simply continuously strike her opponent with her ability, which would mean endless stun locks. Sayaka was shocked as it was the first time she had thought about this scenario. Subaru then pointed to a place where she could go and test this discovery about her ability. Sayaka could take advantage of this terrain, as the monsters would have to fight her one by one. This narrow corridor was already being used by Sayaka, so she immediately ran to that spot and told Subaru to wait for her. She wasted no more time and tried her ability. She would first hit the monsters and apply her ability, and after 3 seconds, she would strike them again to reactivate her ability. This process continued several times, and after a while, this punch was able to end the life of that goblin. The system notified Sayaka that she had defeated a level 6 goblin. Her eyes began to shine as she was amazed by this method. She then raised her hands and told the monsters to come to her. Subaru just stood there and watched his companion. Sayaka began defeating more and more monsters. The system then notified them that the boss of the monsters for this gate had appeared. She turned her head to inform RMC, but it was already too late. The boss of the monsters was already there facing Subaru. This boss was composed of 2 high-level creatures, one was the Goblin Chief, and the other was the Mighty Cobble. Subaru informed Sayaka that he would leave the other monsters to her as he would face this one by himself. Both knew they were about to have an intense battle and began emitting their auras. This was followed by a massive explosion. Sayaka saw that both Subaru and the monster boss leaped into the air. Cobble and Subaru began exchanging blows. Their movements were so fast that it was difficult for a normal eye to keep up with them. The Goblin Chief seized the opportunity to unleash his ability. Fortunately, the system notified Sayaka about it. The arrow the goblin shot began to glow and split into more arrows. This ability was called Forge and was already at level 2. Subaru didn't have much time to dodge, so he surrounded himself with his ability, forming a massive round shield. This was enough to protect him and stop the arrows. It was like the ninjutsu used by Gari, the only difference being that this ability had a time limit. After 15 seconds, the ability dissolved, and Subaru was already falling to the ground. He was grateful that his ability had leveled up because if it hadn't, he would have died. He was beginning to recognize the skill and strength of this monster boss. Meanwhile, Sayaka was still watching the fight, impressed by Subaru's resilience. She wanted to help but couldn't find the perfect moment, as her ability was also useless due to the high level of the monster boss, monsters. She needed at least 3 levels lower or higher for her instant void to be activated. The low-level monsters continued to attack her, but she easily defeated them, busy watching her companions fight. She then realized she should hurry and defeat these monsters first. As for Subaru, his eyes changed color once again. He wrapped his arms in blood and then whipped the blood towards the monster boss, turning it into multiple blades. However, this attack was avoided by Cobble, who leaped towards Subaru, about to attack him again. RMC didn't expect this. The Goblin Chief also charged up its Forge ability, and several arrows began to rain down. Subaru used his blood-shaping ability to create multiple shields and deflect them, trying to counterattack as well. The battle was intense, but our protagonist was clearly at a disadvantage and starting to get tired. The large Cobble took care of the evasion and mobility, while the Goblin Chief was responsible for long-range attacks. Subaru was now struggling to find an opening as these monsters were highly synchronized. The Goblin Chief activated a new ability called Piercing, emitting a bright white light. Subaru had no time to react to this new skill, as it was too quick and struck RMC. The arrow created a hole, and blood spurted from Subaru. He realized that this monster leader possessed some intelligence. It had used its initial ability as a decoy to lure him in. Subaru clearly felt he had fallen into its trap and began to lose hope, not knowing what to do. The Goblin Chief was already preparing its next attack, but before it could unleash it, Sayaka intervened and punched the imposing Cobble. She managed to use her instant void ability this time, even though Subaru knew her ability required a 3-level difference first. The Cobble of level 12 really fell, indicating her ability had worked. Subaru then saw the corridor where the weak monsters were coming from, and all of them were eliminated. Sayaka's level had increased to level 9, allowing her to permanently stun the level 12 Cobble by attacking it every 3 seconds. He turned it into rubber. The force was sufficient to propel his body at high speed towards the Goblin Chief. Then, he changed the properties of the rubber again, transforming it back into a rope. The Goblin Chief's neck was pulled again, and he broke his neck. This was more than enough to defeat the mighty Cobble. The system notified Subaru that he had leveled up again, now at level 6. His wounds were healed, his HP and MP were fully restored. Subaru then remembered the ability Tiga used against him. RMC used his blood-shaping ability, and it was called Derived Blood Fist. The Goblin Chief still shot his arrow towards Subaru, but it was met with this blood-armored fist. Subaru managed to break through and deliver a clean blow. Now he had this cool ability. Subaru displayed a triumphant expression on his face. The Goblin Chief had been defeated by RMC. Multiple level-up notifications appeared, his blood-shaping ability had increased again and could now last for up to 20 seconds. Sayaka witnessed it all and couldn't believe they had actually defeated all the monsters at this gate. Subaru turned and looked at her, confirming their victory. The system then officially notified them of the mission's success. They cleared this gate in just 16 minutes, with plenty of time remaining. This was Subaru's new status window. He had leveled up from level 1 to level 9, and all his stats had significantly increased since the gate was cleared. The system gave them 30 seconds to exit before the gate disappeared. Meanwhile, the other guys were still waiting outside the gate. One of them discovered that Subaru had stolen his jacket and now wanted revenge. He was already freezing, but then he noticed something written on the door. It already had the cleared sign. This notification shocked them because only 15 minutes had passed since the two of them entered this gate. The average completion time was about 2 hours, but their doubts vanished when Subaru and Sayaka reopened the gate. The guy without the jacket immediately asked Sayaka if this was true. He thought they were just lying, but a series of notifications appeared for each of them, confirming that they had cleared a 2-star gate. The remaining time, which was 3 hours and 11 minutes, was added to the sky clock. Everyone checked the sky clock to confirm if this was really happening, and indeed, it changed. Another 3 hours were added. This demonstrated the importance of clearing gates immediately. The sky clock was a massive gate that could be seen worldwide. There was a rumor that the world would end when it reached 0, and the only way to avoid it was to. This was about cleaning more gates and adding more time to it. This guy still couldn't believe that Subaru and Sayaka managed to clear a 2-star gate, and furthermore, their levels were very low. He was astonished when Subaru approached him and apologized for ruining his jacket. Subaru said he would make it up to him later, but instead of getting angry, the guy's mood changed, and he told Subaru that he could keep the jacket. One of his friends mocked him because just before that, he was telling everyone that he would make Subaru pay for stealing his jacket. With that, these players recognized the strength of these two and bowed in thanks for clearing the dungeon. After that, each went their separate ways, and the gate behind them started to disintegrate, disappearing. 2 2-star items were left behind, and Sayaka picked one of them with a satisfied smile for Subaru. They were about to make the exchange when Subaru asked something. Then they went to a Kappa copyright to discuss it. Sayaka found out that Subaru was requesting to redeem all the money in his name, even though their split was 70 for him and 30 for her. However, her comments went unheard as RMC was still captivated by the coffee cup. Sayaka shouted to get Subaru's attention and continued to question him about the money. RMC told her that he couldn't give her the details of why he couldn't redeem money at the moment, and this statement made her doubt his true identity. She knew Vanquish was not his real name. Subaru became really suspicious because he used a fake name and cleared a 2-star gate as a level 1 player. Sayaka saw the doubt on Subaru's face and told him that she really didn't care about any of that. She told him that after fighting alongside Subaru, she knew he was a good person, and furthermore, he was the one who saved her life. This woman already recognized Subaru as her comrade and also offered her help if he needed anything. Her words surprised Subaru. His bitter past began to come back to his mind. He thought it was the first time someone had been kind to him, and it really made him feel good. Subaru then thanked Sayaka, which she did not expect, as she was the only one who treated him like a human being. RMC then heard his real name, Aratuki Subaru, and was about to share everything that had happened to him in the past few days. To me, a group of players decided to work together and chose to skip formalities. Meanwhile, at the Federation of Players headquarters, a meeting was taking place. Renji informed the other gold-ranked players that their numbers had decreased, leaving only 6 gold-ranked players to take action. One player responded, saying there shouldn't be a problem with that because they had always disliked Taga for his arrogant attitude. Another player intervened, pointing out that only gold-ranked players were capable of clearing 4 to 5-star gates, which could be a real issue. They had no choice but to increase their work shifts to compensate for Taga's absence. Renji also planned to ask some silver-ranked players to join in clearing the 5-star gates. This statement made 2 players doubt it, as the silver-ranked players were significantly stronger, but perhaps it would be possible if they could send about 30 silver-ranked players. Currently, there were 7 5-star gates in Tokyo, and they needed to be cleared quickly. Renji announced that he would leave the 5-star gate clearance to Giletta's team, who was their leader and currently at level 38. In the headquarters, Sayaka and Subaru had also arrived. Sayaka noticed Giletta's team leaving the building, but Subaru almost collided with them. Giletta told Subaru to be more careful next time as they passed by. RNC noticed that they all seemed strong. Sayaka then shared that they were considered the strongest silver-ranked team. The 2 were at the headquarters to reserve another 2-star gate, and they were confident they could clear it easily. The gate they secured was also in Meguro City. The gate they were about to clear could be seen in the distance, towering like a building. This 2-star gate had only 17 hours left before monsters could emerge. It was called the Soldier's Dumpfield Dungeon. Sayaka and Subaru managed to enter this gate. It was then revealed that players could enter and exit a gate as long as they didn't lock the door. This method was created so players could go and explore the area in advance. That's how they found this gate. Sayaka thought the structure of this place was designed to suit their abilities. She then asked Subaru to go and lock the door, and the mission would officially begin. This woman was really excited because she had already found a way to make the most of her ability. Skeletons appeared at the bottom of the staircase and were now ascending. Subaru noticed their faint presence, but something bothered him. He immediately looked down. RNC felt an intimidating presence on the lower floor of this gate. The skeleton soldiers were getting closer. Sayaka's confident expression was starting to change. She didn't expect the soldiers to come in such large numbers. They were simply too many. Before she realized it, one of them was already running toward her. Subaru saw it coming. This woman was overwhelmed by the pressure she felt and couldn't dodge. Fortunately, RNC was quick enough to use his ability and protect her. Sayaka regained consciousness and managed to use her ability. She thought she had come dangerously close to danger, but there was no time to stand still because the others were now running towards her. Once again, Subaru was able to defend her. She seized this opportunity to execute her counterattacks. She immediately thanked Subaru for saving her life once again. Sayaka also informed Subaru that the level of these monsters was very high, level 10 or above. This meant they were in trouble because they wouldn't be able to leave this gate until they cleared it. The only option they had was to eliminate all these monsters and face the boss monster at the bottom of the staircase. Subaru volunteered and told Sayaka that he would take care of defense while she focused on attacking the skeletons. They needed to reduce the number of these monsters. RMC thought the terrain was perfect for her teammate, but their numbers were simply too large. One by one, the skeletons were being defeated, but this was also turning against them. Sayaka was nearing her limit. Subaru shouted at her and suggested they take turns facing the skeletons so she wouldn't exhaust herself so much, but the woman didn't respond. She then turned her head and said it was the opposite because the more skeletons she defeated, the faster she could level up and regain her energy. Sayaka was now at level 10. She winked at Subaru because this leveling up issue proved she was right. With this, Sayaka told Subaru that he should also level up. A large amount of blood then came rushing. It was a new move in her skill set, called the Bloodbind, and it affected the entire staircase. Sayaka managed to reach the edge of the stairs to dodge it. Meanwhile, Subaru was still focused on his ability, using all his mana. He thought he should use everything he had to defeat them once and for all. When Subaru felt he had hit all of them, he changed the property of the blood, hardening it. He knew that the pressure down there was getting stronger with each passing moment. More notifications of them leveling up appeared. Sayaka was now at level 20, while Subaru was at level 19. Finally, they reached the bottom of the gate. The final boss appeared before them, a skeleton resembling a mage named Empress Judith, at level 29. Subaru and Sayaka knew that this was a much stronger boss. Empress Judith began to unleash her abilities, forming black whips in just a second, which nearly demolished the area. Sayaka was speechless. This boss continued its attacks. Subaru then used his ability to create something like a shield to protect them. He knew this boss was truly powerful, and he even had an item with him. Sayaka then whispered something to RMC in front of this boss. She already knew her role, telling Subaru that her abilities were not compatible, and she couldn't do anything against him. Subaru felt that this fight relied heavily on him, but something still felt wrong. While he was in front of this boss, he still wasn't sure if the ominous feeling he had when entering the gate came from this boss. Their battle was about to begin, but a rainbow-colored glitch also began to appear around them. Empress Judith started using her ability again, and these black whips almost hit the two players. Fortunately, they managed to dodge and defend themselves. Aqua was already in a panic and asked Subaru and Sayaka what they should do. Subaru then analyzed the situation and realized that the boss was using mana to extend her whips, and he wondered if this worked like his blood mold ability. He also knew that Sayaka's ability was useless against a level 29 monster, as her instant void wouldn't have any effect. Meanwhile, his blood mold ability could be used both offensively and defensively. This meant Sayaka wouldn't be able to gain experience from this boss. Subaru then remembered their promise to grow stronger together and never betray each other. With a serious expression, he told Sayaka that he would ensure to block the boss's attack. Nervously, Sayaka agreed to the plan. Subaru began using his blood mold ability with a viscosity of 100. Empress Judith stopped attacking when she saw Subaru's ability. Both knew their abilities were about to clash. And then it happened, their abilities collided, but Subaru's blood mold ability managed to win. Large drops of blood clung to the boss, immobilizing her. Subaru then squeezed his hands once again, making the blood act like a kind of glue. Sayaka realized this and compared it to a trap. This was also her signal to launch her attack. She ran toward the boss and told Subaru that he could truly be invincible with his ability. Subaru humbly denied this claim, knowing he was still weak compared to other players. At the same time, Sayaka knew she was already exerting all her strength. She managed to land a blow on the boss while Subaru held her, but nothing happened. She felt fear for a moment, but quickly overcame it and continued her attacks. Sayaka bombarded the boss with her combo attacks. Subaru just stood there, maintaining control of his ability. At that moment, he wondered how support and defense players leveled up, as they would really struggle to defeat monsters. Subaru then realized that his ability was about to expire, with only 5 seconds left. He informed Sayaka that his effect would soon be gone. Empress Judith was patiently waiting for the moment she could move again, and as soon as the ability expired, she unleashed her black whips again. Sayaka was already moving away, but the boss still managed to ensnare her. However, this didn't faze her, she kept her composure. A red circle of blood began to surround her and shield her before the attacks reached Sayaka. Subaru arrived in time to launch his ability. Sayaka smiled and confirmed that she was fine. Empress Judith then became angry and suddenly started speaking, asking Subaru where he obtained his ability. RMC didn't know that these bosses could speak, and now this boss was incredulous, claiming it was impossible that such a creature would lend its power to a human. Subaru tried to have a conversation with the boss, but it was too late. She was about to launch a violent attack. Subaru and Sayaka were shocked as the boss grew stronger and transformed. Sayaka then remembered the information her sister shared with her, that some monsters use all their MP to be able to transform, and now this boss was about to launching a powerful attack. Subaru was notified by the system, and he immediately tried to form a shield. A powerful explosion was unleashed toward RNC and Sayaka. Subaru managed to complete his shield, but with the amount of force being released by this monster, his shield was being pushed back. The blood was continually heated and evaporated by the explosion, rapidly draining his MP. If this continued, he would certainly run out of mana. However, he couldn't stop this shield as it was also protecting Sayaka. Once again, Subaru's eyes began to glow in rainbow colors. This boss seemed to sense something strange. A more solid type of shield appeared in front of him, and he chose to release more power in his powerful explosion. But Subaru thought it was already too late. His shield transformed into a lance and pierced the Skeleton Queen, concluding the battle. Empress Judith was still wondering how she was defeated, but then the system notified Subaru and Sayaka that he had defeated the boss. He also leveled up and was now at level 20. Subaru was still lamenting defeating this boss because it seemed like the Skeleton Queen knew Vanquish. He now wondered if the monsters inside the gates were the same owners of the test gates. RNC was also congratulated by Sayaka, who admitted to relying on Subaru once again. With this achievement, she also leveled up. Subaru was very happy because they both got stronger and cleared another game. He then thought that if he encountered a boss again, he would try to talk to them. Sayaka then noticed something strange. They had already defeated the boss, but the gate was not yet considered cleared. The rainbow anomaly began to manifest again. Both of them felt something. A rainbow door appeared once more behind Subaru. He couldn't believe that this phenomenon could really happen. Sayaka then revealed that the test doors, among the players, could appear as many times as necessary. Each new door would have a different test inside, and they would need to continue facing challenges to progress. When the player completes this test, they gain another ability related to their class. Subaru then thought that maybe this had appeared because he had reached level 20. Sayaka then shared that she had heard that Renji had already opened 7 doors for his class. This girl was excited to think about it. She thought they would really make a good team and could become the strongest combination someday. Subaru began to reflect. He knew that this was really possible. If he could gain another ability, someday he could be as strong as these gold players. Sayaka then suggested that he go now and complete this test. She was really radiant with a light aura, her intentions were pure. RNC felt relieved to see her enthusiasm. Subaru then reached out toward the rainbow door. Both of them were excited to see what it would be, but as soon as Subaru opened the door, a red strike came out, hitting his arm. Sayaka was also hit. With a dark expression, Sayaka apologized to Subaru, knowing that she wouldn't last long after this attack. Subaru called out her name. He was now also without an arm. But before he could reach Sayaka, he was thrown out. A creature opened the door and revealed itself to them. This creature had a massive red chisel and was smiling. She also had the same pale skin as Vanquish. The creature was disappointed to see another player, thinking that Subaru was alone. Subaru then realized something. This was the ominous feeling he felt at the beginning of the gate. He was still wondering who this new creature was because it clearly wasn't Vanquish, but he chose to turn his attention to Sayaka. RNC shouted as his friend was already on the brink of death. Subaru could also use his ability to stop her bleeding. The creature then apologized and asked Subaru if she was really an important friend. She even added that she might just be an obstacle to his progress. This new creature was really trying to make Subaru furious and succeeding. A great amount of strength began to emanate from RMC. He had the same eyes when filled with hatred. Subaru promised he would never forgive what this creature had done to Sayaka. He stated he would make sure to kill her. The pressure Subaru emitted left this creature excited. In the blink of an eye, RMC was already in front of this creature. Fortunately, she managed to block Subaru's attack with her chisel. She began to laugh as she introduced herself. This guy was one of Lord Vanquish's subordinates. He was known as the Ghoul King, and his name was Carrion. Subaru didn't care much about that. All he wanted was to kill this creature immediately. The system then notified RMC about Sayaka's condition. She had only 48 seconds before she would die. If you liked this video, comment and don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. Goodbye.